Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Diane and my passion is painting and creating in my studio. Every day I share a video with you on YouTube in which I paint and create all sorts of nature-inspired pictures. I also share loads of tips on how to make the most of your painting journey, interrupted fairly frequently by our family of dogs, cats, chickens and sheep. So welcome on board, click subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's learn to paint watercolor. Hi everyone, welcome to my studio. Today I know exactly what I'm going to do, although I may have to do half of it today and half of it tomorrow, but what I'm going to do is I am going to paint some coriander or cilantro that's gone to seed, which is growing in our garden and looks really nice. And when cilantro goes to seed, it puts up these very pretty little flowers, and they're very, very popular with the bees. So I thought that I would draw some of that, and yes, I mean the flowers are adorable, and that's where the coriander seeds come from, obviously. The cilantro, the leaves that we normally eat aren't like this. They're flatter, bigger leaves, which are more down towards the bottom of the plant. But as it goes to seed, it produces these very ferny, frondy leaves, which are quite different. And they make quite a pretty pattern. We've got some roses growing in front of a great big bush of coriander that's gone to seed. And was going to seed, and it looks really pretty. So I thought we might do something like that. So it's covered in honeybees, not bumblebees, but honeybees. So first thing I had to do was do some sketches of honeybees, because not all bees are created equal, and a honeybee doesn't look like a bumblebee, as we know. So a few years ago, we used to keep bees. Tamsin decided she would do that for a bit, and we had for a while a hive, and so I bought her this massive book called the Collins Beekeeper's Bible. As you do whenever you start a new hobby, you have to have a book, don't you? I think books are one of my favourite things. I haven't read this one, but I'm going to, because she got it out for me today and said, "So you wanted to know, Mum, what the difference between a honeybee and a bumblebee was? Well, these are honeybees." And so they are different. They are not as fat and bumbly, and they have a definite waist, and their body part there is much smoother and less hairy and shiny, kind of shiny. And the shape of the bee is like this, rather than looking like a little fat croissant, as somebody said about my bees. So I decided to send myself on a crash course in how to draw real bees, and that is my little preliminary sketch for that. So I know what I'm doing. And then I decided, okay, enough back to school for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint on a piece of formerly stretch paper, which I'll show you how I do that in a second. I'll do a backward flip, show you how I did this, and then once that's done, like it is, it's dry. And so what we're going to do is we will draw the picture on there. Often a good idea to lift your brush the board a little bit so that the water can flow down. And this is a nice brush too. Just gradually diluting my wash as I go down. This is basically going to form the background of a painting. So once I've got to the bottom here, I'll just let that dry and come back in and put something over top of it. So there we are. That's just cobalt blue on a piece of stretched paper using the number 8 flat. So I've got a choice of lots of different things to draw with, but I'm going to use my nice silver German pencil, courtesy of Sylvia, for this. And I'm going to pretend that this is the sky, and I'm going to draw some of this reaching up into the sky, and I'm going to put the flowers on using white gouache probably, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do, really, to be honest. Well, I do know I know roughly what I'm going to do, but I'm not sure exactly how it's going to turn out. So that's a wonderful, exciting thing about painting, isn't it? For all of us, no matter how many paintings you've done in your life, everyone is going to be a surprise the next time you do it. You're never sure. You know, you start off and you think, I know what I'm going to do. I have got this under control. I am not going to be taken by surprise this time, you say. Not like I was yesterday when the yellow bird went brown. He had a suntan by the time I'd finished with him. But yes, well, these things happen, and we can't complain, can we? So I had a friend round for a cup of tea today. We don't do this very often since the pandemic. And she was talking to me about these people that she's met here. We live in the middle of France, and the population density here is about 0 to 0. There's nobody here. We are strangers in a strange land. So she lives in the middle of nowhere over the other side of the back of beyond, and I live in the middle of nowhere over this side of the back of beyond. But before I came to live here, I lived somewhere else in the back of beyond, and that back of beyond was Canmore in the Rockies, just outside, about an hour and a half away from Calgary in Alberta. And anyway, so Rachel, my friend, who comes from, well, actually we met here, but before she came here, she lived in the town that I grew up in England, in Kent. And a place, she was living just down the road from the first school I taught in when I became a teacher in the late 80s. So we didn't know one another at that time, but she lived practically next door to my best friend. Anyway, so it's funny how these things happen. So she was saying, oh, I've met this nice couple. They're Canadian. And I said, oh, really? Oh, I used to live in Canada. And she goes, yeah, well, no, but they're not really Canadian. They're English, but she's lived in Canada for a long time and so on. And so I said, oh, that's interesting. Where did she live? And she goes, oh, Canmore. And I'm like, what? That's where I used to live. Canmore being just outside Banff in the Rockies. You North American people, especially the Canadians, will know what I'm talking about. Turns out this woman, whose name is Karen from Canmore, of all things, ran an art gallery in Canmore, where I also used to live, and came from Brighton, which is just down the road from where I was living when I went to university in Brighton, and where I was living when we were running our business in England before we came to France. And she lives just around the corner from me here. And all of that seems like a massive coincidence. I don't know whether anyone's even remotely interested in coincidences, but it's a funny thing, this world. So I've sketched out some kind of framework here for the plant, and going up into the sky like that. And now I'm going to sit down and kind of try to draw the bees. So I'm going to my Beekeeper's Bible and have a look, see if I can find some that are in the right position to be drawn. Let's have a look, see what we can find. There's one. Move it over a bit. Part of the book. That's it. Right, this one here. So we'll just so Tamsin said, oh, makes you realise just how not unique we all are. You know, you think, oh, I'm an artist from England who used to live in Canada. Oh, and there's another one just down the road. Weird. Anyway, she can't sell her work. She paints in acrylic. She doesn't do what I do. She paints in acrylic. She's a proper artist. She paints in acrylic. But you can't sell anything here. No one's got any money. There's two legs coming out there, seemingly coming out from more or less the same place, but I'm sure they're not really. And then I think there's another one near the front. There we are, so that's 1B. And then I'm going to put another one up here. Let's find another one to draw. And put one here. A little head. A body. And that coriander smells really, really nice. Smells quite sweet. I'll put another one up here. Okay, so we might add some more when we go further, but that's where we'll start off. And then, now the question is, how are we going to do this? And because I'm going over a background, we don't want it to be too light and airy-fairy, so we've got various different choices, haven't we? We could do it with ink, we could do, I wonder if I've got any green ink. Well, I just had a quick check, and I used to have some green ink, but it's gone home to its maker, and no good anymore. It's dried out, actually. So what I'm going to do is I've mixed up here, this is some olive green, and where's the brush? I've mixed quite a bit of that. And so experimentation phase 1, we're going to see if we can draw using a stick. I think this one, or shall I use this one? This one's a bit more delicate. I mean, they're not what you would call delicate, they're just bits of twig from the garden. So I'm going to dip in and hope. And the good thing about this is that it gives you a characterful line with plenty of variation of tone and shape and texture and everything. Things that when you use a brush, even a water brush, you tend not to be able to do because you're in too much of a hurry to control it. Whereas if you use a stick, you don't do that. You just clay. Okay, and then if you wanted to, you could soften up some of that with the water brush, for example. There's a bit of brown coming there from a brown that I must have used before. And you could also, if you wanted, you could come in with some, I've got some raw sienna, burnt sienna there. You could just, or, you know, warm it up a little bit in places. Darken it up a bit in places. And then I was reading a book by Anne Blockley earlier today, and she suggested using, to do the flowers on something like this, she suggested using white gouache and, excuse the pigeons on the roof. And then, so I'm just getting, this is white gouache, designer's gouache by Winsor & Newton. Any make will do. Or as they said, any deal will do. And then I've got a cotton bud, and I'm just going to see if that will work to give some irregular flowers. Now that would obviously work better if the paint was thicker, so we'll try to thicken that up a bit. I need a little bit more water. I'm all for trying experimental techniques, because why not? So, Anne, hope you don't mind me demonstrating your method here. And we might want a bit of blue added in there. Anne Blockley is the daughter of a painter whose work, John Blockley, whose work I really grew up with and enjoyed trying to emulate. Wish I'd had a father like that. Okay. Put a little bit of blue up there too, I think. So a slightly different colour blue from the sky. Do you remember that the inspiration of the coriander cilantro is literally just that? And, you know, if we go a long way away from where we started, it doesn't matter, does it? If we're happy with what we achieve. And I've got a little bit of lemon yellow here now. I'm going to come in with a little bit of yellow in this one here on this side. And then in the background, I'm still painting with a Q-tip. I'm going to put some fainter ones in the background. Sort of blurry. Okay, and then I might go back to my stick and then try to put in some stem, I don't know, whatever they are, these bits. And now I think, having done that so far, I think I'll probably put the bees in now. So I'm going to do that, I think, with my water brush, which I need to put some water in. There we go. And I noticed that the honeybees don't have as much yellow on them as bumblebees. So I just need to go back to my picture. I've got another book here. And it's kind of goldeny colour, isn't it? It's more of a kind of quinacridone gold kind of colour rather than lemon yellow. So I've got Payne's grey here, I think. Yep, and quinacridone gold. So we'll come in with the quinacridone. And put that on there. And then he's got quite a dark head. We'll let that run. And then more stripes, I think you could say, than the bumble. Yes. And then we'll just try and sweep the wing. This may or may not work. So we'll just let that dry a little bit and then we'll sharpen that up, and hopefully that will be okay. And I'm going to come back in with a little bit more colour on this flower here. Still using the Q-tip. Okay. Having had the experience of what happens when you add black to gold, I'll leave that one like that, shall I? What do you think? And we'll put the gold in there and a couple of bands there. And we let that dry. And then I think we probably need quite a bit more shadow on some of the underparts of the flowers, just to make them look pretty. And then I think we might do some work with the long brush, the sword liner. So I'm going to go for a mixture of quinacridone gold and olive green. Let me just mix that up in the palette there, sorry. That's just quinacridone and olive. And then we're just going to flick in some grasses. And just don't pick up any more paint, but just put some water, and then I'm going to drop in some spatter and some a little bit darker. And then maybe up near the top, a bit more yellow. Now, we need to come back to the bees a little bit with the black. I'll just sit down for this. Now, if you want to do the bees, if you do this painting, if you want to do the bees as bumblebees, feel free. There are bumblebees out there too. On the cilantro. I don't think this one turned out very well, but you know, you can't win them all, can you? He needs to dry and to be slightly, what's the word? Sorted. And I put the wings in on this one. Don't have a problem there. One wing on that side. One wing on this side. And then I think I'll just take the fine liner and do the legs and the antennae. And I think possibly we might still need to, oh, that might be a bit too much. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that to dry for a minute, and we'll come back shortly and we'll see what needs to be done next. So I have decided to come in with a little bit more, now it's dry, a little bit more of my foreground grass, just in a little bit darker, just a few. These are always fun. It's very easy to do too much, really. You can easily get carried away. So, but yeah, so I want some nice big spatter in the front here. And a few more going up there, perhaps. But I'm not going to put much more in the sky. I think that's enough. I'm not 100% completely, totally and utterly convinced about my bee here. He is not the best bee I ever painted, but I'm sure he'll turn out to be the best behaved. I could try to shape him a little better, just get rid of, maybe make his bottom a little bit smaller. I think that might be a good idea. This is an idea that you can always use gouache to modify the colour or the shape. If you feel you've gone a little bit wrong, and there's a mistake there too, which we can cover up. I don't really like the way I've done the line around the outside edge, so I'll try and cover that up a bit too. But it probably won't work because gouache is not completely opaque. But anyway, you know, having done this for the first time like this, then next time when I do it again, which I doubtless will, do it slightly differently. That'll have to do for now. So there we are, that's the final painting. Hope you enjoyed that. Lots of new techniques there, lots of different things. If you've got a packet of these Q-tips that's been lying around for a long time, did you know that if you keep them for enough time they just become brittle? And do that. That's interesting, isn't it? Those ones, I just found them in a drawer the other day. I don't know where, I don't know where they came from. Anyway, irrelevant. So that's it. Move these out the way. Hope you enjoyed that. Give us a like and subscribe. Don't forget to go to the website where you can download 200 different sketches for free of the videos that we've been doing for the last 6 months or so. Take a look at the community tab and find out about how to join our membership group. You can subscribe to channel membership now through YouTube to support us creators in our process. So that would be lovely if you'd like to do that too. So I'd be very grateful for anyone to join. I think we've got about 21 members at the moment. Let's start somewhere. So I shall say bye-bye for now, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. And thanks for being here, and hope you enjoyed the bees. See you soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.